This is my favorite segment of the morning. You know, the weather eventually is going to cool and get colder and colder. And of course, we keep an eye on the temperature, but something else that I feel is more important, and that is the wind chill. We brought in the best doctor to chat about this today. Dr. Ali is here, and always great to see you. Thanks for coming in too, Doc. Let's talk about the severity of wind chill. I always like to mention that because, as you know, the temperature is one thing, but temperature with wind, it feels a lot colder. What is the actual concept and function to the human body with wind chill?
So when we think about being cold, we think about how the temperature is affecting the inner part of our body, our core body temperature. It has to be really, really cold for that to affect what we call hypothermia. And that's another discussion for another day. But wind chill, you can actually have the effects as as low as even 50 degrees Fahrenheit. You start seeing in the body, in the skin, vasoconstriction of the blood vessels. So wind chill actually drives the rate of cooling faster. So the rate of cooling on the surface of the body, the skin. So that's why we can start seeing some effects, as we see here with the vasoconstriction, even as low as 50 degrees. But with the wind chill factor, brought in, it actually cools the skin faster. In fact, when we have people who have hyperthermia, we use alcohol and we use a fan to drive the wind over the skin to rapidly cool, the skin surface. So wind chill does affect the skin surface temperature, and you can actually drive the temperature lower faster. So it's the rate of cooling that's affected by the wind chill, because it's the stationary air that's actually being driven at a faster rate.
And this leads into frostbite, correct?
Right.
Where now you run into trouble. What are some of the signs of frostbite for anybody out during the coming winter?
Right. So frostbite, you start feeling the numbness. So the surface of the skin cools to a point where the nerves, the nerve fibers don't work very much. The blood supply slows down. And when the blood supply is sluggish, the nerves work less well. So that's why you feel numbness. And not only in the fingers, but you also see the tips of the ears, the nose also. So the extremities, that's where we have, very tiny blood vessels. So the blood flow can become compromised even faster because the blood vessels shrink when the weather is really cold, and when the wind chill, is factored in there, it's even faster. So when we get the blood vessels shrink, then we can start seeing what we see, these blisters here. Now this is an advanced case of frostbite.
Severe.
But 15 minutes at freezing temperature with high winds, we can really start seeing this.
And doctor, I use a formula, 20-24. Here's what it means. 20-degree temperature, 20-mile-per-hour winds. It feels like 4 degrees.
Exactly.
So that is a big influence when you talk about the wind.
And essentially that is telling you what the surface temperature of your skin is. It may not be your core temperature, because remember, when the blood vessels shrink, all that nice warm blood is being sent to your core, but your extremities are exposed and they are at risk of frostbite.
Now, what about my mother? She'd always say, you need a hat, you need a hat. What's the theory and reasoning for that?
You radiate...
She's correct first? Well, she's always correct.
She is. You radiate most of the heat from the top of your head and your feet. So it's very important to have warm footwear, socks, and yes, to wear a hat, because those are the areas where you radiate the heat more often. And a lot of people say, well, what if I drink alcohol and it's cold? Alcohol actually makes those blood vessels dilate. They become bigger. So you radiate more heat and you cool down faster. So if you activate the wind chill and alcohol, it's a double whammy.
And I believe we have a national map of the wind chill because it's occurring. Look at Bismarck. It feels like 4 degrees. Now, doctor, I know your eyes are on Miami, where it's 72. But on a serious note, what should people do, though, if they're with somebody, maybe skiing this winter or outside, walking in Connecticut, and they notice problems with somebody? What's the first thing?
The first thing is to recognize the numbness. When you start feeling numb, that is the time to act, not until you start seeing these blisters. So, of course, cover the skin immediately. And, you can put your skin in warm water
Okay.
But the problem is people then are driving someplace, they take the hand out of the water and they put it back in. The whole damage happens when you have the thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze.
Okay.
That's what you don't want to do. Once you put your hand in a warm place, keep it there until you seek medical attention.
Okay.
Usually, you can just go indoors and the numbness will go away and,
and the body will regulate
right,
the temperature.
Exactly.
Very
But if you
good.
start seeing those blisters, you got to treat that as a burn and you should seek medical attention.
Okay. Doctor, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to talking each month about weather and
We
health.
got lots of stuff to talk about.
That'll be great. And we're going to have this on WTNH.com and the News 8 app as well. Also with a wind chill calculator on there. And you see it right at the bottom.